President Trump just declared the nation's capital a crime-free zone after his federal takeover, and he's even thinking about expanding his crime crackdown to other cities, especially after Chicago's super violent holiday weekend. Alexandria Hoff is live in Washington with the latest. Good morning, Alex.
Well, good morning to you. This weekend, Chicago saw multiple mass shootings, at least 43 people shot, 7 fatally. Governor J.B. Pritzker still says the National Guard is only for emergencies, and he doesn't think this is one. Yesterday, he talked about that and the Trump administration ramping up immigration enforcement. We're hoping they don't send any troops with ICE. If they do, they'll be in court pretty quickly because that's illegal. Posse Comitatus doesn't allow U.S. troops in U.S. cities to fight crime or get involved in law enforcement. That's not their job. DHS Secretary Christine Noem was asked about potential plans to send the National Guard to cities like Chicago. There are a lot of cities dealing with crime and violence right now, so we haven't ruled anything out. We've been making sure we have the resources and equipment to go in, and we've been partnering with every agency we can. President Trump said yesterday that D.C. is now a crime-free zone in just 12 days here in Washington. Since federal reinforcements arrived, the White House claims over 1,500 arrests have been made and over 150 firearms taken off the streets. Local Democrat leadership was quick to point to falling crime rates as a reason why the DOJ takeover of the police force wasn't needed. But the Washington Post editorial board admitted that there are legitimate reasons to be skeptical of the city's published crime statistics. That's about an investigation into whether D.C. police fudged the numbers to make the crime rate look lower before being federalized, guys, and that's not good. Alexandria Hoff live for us.
Alex, thank you.
Let's bring in Chicago radio host and resident Ray Stevens. Ray, how many more innocent people have to die on the streets of Chicago before Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson just swallowed their pride, admit they were wrong, admit they have a problem, and welcome Donald Trump's crackdown there in the Windy City?
Todd, it just doesn't make any sense, but it's conditioned response, right? We've been dealing with this in Chicago for years, especially under the Biden administration. But here's what the Democrat leaders will say. Oh, well, you know what? By statistics, the crime numbers are down. And you and I both know you can manipulate numbers to your favor. They got rid of ShotSpotter. And think about it. 43 shot, 7 dead. Now, people will say, well, back in the 90s in Chicago, there were 700 to 800 murders a year. All this really shows you is how good first response and triage have gotten at saving people. But to your point, I don't want one person shot here in Chicago. Chicago is probably 2,500 police officers down because nobody wants to do this job anymore. That's where the rub is right there. We need more officers. We need people to prosecute crime. And I don't understand why the hill the Democrats want to die on is, dead citizens and dead kids every single weekend. 43 shot in Chicago on a weekend, that's normal news. It's not an outrageous or unrealistic number right now, and we've got a day to go.
But my question is Chicago like New York, where people get arrested and they're in and out of jail before the paperwork's done with the police department? Are these the same people committing the crimes over and over? Because when you look at the stats, crime is up all around in Chicago, so it makes you wonder if these are the same people doing it.
Well, we've got the SAFETY Act here. I believe Illinois was the first state with the SAFETY Act. There's no safety within the SAFETY Act. Our Mayor Brandon Johnson last week said that jailing is racist and it doesn't work. So yeah, you commit a crime, you go back out on the street. 9 times out of 10, the same people are doing the crime, and you can see what happens. I mean, look at those numbers you have right there. We're talking about homicides. Nobody mentions shot jackings. Nobody mentions the beating last weekend in the Gold Coast where a guy had his eye sockets smashed. I thought the guy was dead. And we don't even talk about stuff that goes on the Gold Coast, which is the nicest of the nice neighborhoods. And I know that the men and women and the people that live in some of Chicago's hardest hit communities, they want safety. And there are a lot of people here. They won't say it to your face. They want the Guard here. And the Guard, I think, will be here this week.
You mentioned Mayor Johnson. He's pushing back against not only Trump's crime crackdown, but also the immigration crackdown that Trump is threatening there for the Windy City. Let's take a listen to what he said about cooperating with ICE.
He is the biggest threat to our democracy that we've experienced in the history of our country. What his ultimate desire is to come into our city to break the Constitution and to break our democracy and to break our city. And Chicago is going to remain firm in our position.
So to be clear, if I'm hearing the mayor properly, illegal migrants breaking the law is democracy. Trying to stop them is a threat to democracy. What do the people of Chicago think about that, Ray?
Hey, Todd, I need to tell you, there's a whole movement in Chicago. Chicago flips red. Chicago turns red. People have had enough. They're tired of immigration money being sent to people who are here illegally when their kids are in schools and they can't read, they can't write, they can't do math.
That's a fact. In a city that's $1.5 billion behind in its budget at this point in the year, it's just ridiculous. So to sit here and think that you're doing the city a favor by saying you're protecting them by not protecting them, I don't get it. I'm here to tell you, Chicago and Illinois are going to see a change real soon.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, they voted him in, but is this really what they want? So it'll be interesting to see what happens when his time comes up. Ray Stevens, thanks so much.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, guys.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart.
আমি করব না আর এমন পিরি কেউ দিলে যাচিয়া করব না আর এমন পিরি কেউ দিলে যাচিয়া শারমি গো তোমার প্রেমের ঝেল খাইয়া করব না আর